My own experience is mostly on field. I've never actually done a World Archery 3D. I've done IFAA 3D or any local rule 3D we have in the Netherlands. But I'll try. For the next 2 hours I have about 50 something slides. But I hope this is the one with the most text. So these will basically be the topics. And some short introduction first, some hints to prepare yourself, and I will try to explain some of the rules as well. Please do pay attention to those parts. Well, pay attention for the entire 2 hours, of course. So what is field archery? Well, it's not the same as target archery. This is a typical field course. This is Slovenia, Mokrice, a few years ago. And you can see 3 courses, qualification round, 24 targets. Target 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 24. And people walk, start at one of the targets. You're assigned to target 12, you start at target 12. And you walk to 13, 14, 15. And you end at 11. And for the other targets, it's the same, of course. And then the next day you'll switch to another course. This is a championship event. National events, they can have 1 or 2 courses, depending on the number of participants, or even during World Games we have courses of 12 targets used twice, because there's only like 24 participants there. Usually on a championship event they will put compound on one, they will put recurve on one, they will put barebow on one. And for 3D this is more or less the same, only a different kind of target. Usually on a championship level event, field, you start unmarked. Next day the organizers will reset the course for marked, and you don't because targets are usually not flat but slightly uphill. Slightly uphill. You can imagine shooting from here. This is the finals venue for the 2018 World Field in Cortina, Italy. You can have straight, you can have up, but you can also have down. If you want some more examples, also Cortina, by the way. You can have straight. I'll get to the target faces later, but also this is up, slightly up. Unmarked. From the back you probably can't see it, but there's no distance on the shooting peg. Same over here. That, by the way, this is the shooting peg. They're shooting from there. Get to that later. I found out I've been a field archer for 25 years, way before I became a judge. The archers are different as well, and you will still see Brady Ellison shooting on a field course. It's the same Brady Ellison, but he's different. Might change now because now it will be part of world ranking, but the archers usually are more relaxed than on a target event. This is a downhill shot. So far we've seen uphill. They're shooting down and they're shooting into the dark. And it's perfectly fine. It's field archery. And it's the same for 3D. This is Yankton last year. Yankton is quite flat, except for when you're entering the hills on qualification round. But that was during elimination round. They built raised platforms and they were a few meters high and shooting down. And yes, this was a crane. I think if I do this, yeah, that's how you score. Ready for the next. Yeah, now somebody is already mentioning here, what about safety? Because if you miss this, where does the arrow travel for a compound? I can tell you quite far. Well, this was on a Saturday and a Sunday, and we know for the next 3 miles there will be nothing behind it. Well, cornfields, but there are more differences because also the practice field is different. Porridge.
I remember.
Yeah. There's something at every distance. And well, there is timing actually usually on a championship round, but there's no set target. They will find whatever they want to shoot at. And in case of this is a field. Most of my experience is field. On 3D there will be 3D animals here. In practice field is marked because the archers would like to know. It's on every 5 meters. This is 5, maybe actually to a 10, 15, up to 60. The distances are, well, these are the distances. Unmarked. This is the rule book, by the way. The number is over there. This is a unit of 12 targets. Within those 12 targets, you need to have 2 to 4 of each of the target faces. Each of the target faces on the blue pack and the red pack. Somewhere in between there. With a bit of tolerance. So theoretically you can have 8 of the small targets after each other. But usually they mix and make it a mixture of long, medium, short, but there's no rule. On a national round, what we often do in our country is we mix the 12 units of unmarked. We take the 12 units from the marked, this one, and we shuffle them together and make 24 targets. But that's national events. A field championship round is 24 unmarked, next day 24 marked. Barebow is the championship division for field. Recurve and compound are championship division in field. Traditional bow and longbow are recreational in field. So in national events you can have traditional bow on the blue pack, longbow on a yellow pack, if you want. The barebow is in the World Championship. The traditional is not. It's in 3D. This is mentioned for 3D. Way more, just a minimum and a maximum for both of the red and the blue pack. And well, it should be said that the small animals should be on the shorter distance and the bigger animals should be on the longer distance. But that's not even a rule. Oh, and by the way, we're talking about red packs and blue packs. What are those?
X.
Marked course. Sometimes you can put them together. Unmarked. And on a slightly steep hill. In this case, Yankton. There is no shooting line. There are just colored poles on the marked rounds with the distance on it. On the unmarked, it's just a pole. And consequently, there is also no 3 meter line. What happens when there's an arrow not shot? No, you can't say. You cannot say. Yep. If the arrow falls down, and you can touch it, or you would be able to touch it if there was not be the cliff there.
The first place opportunity.
And don't worry, the archers will figure it out themselves. They always do. The other reason an arrow could be considered to be unshot is if the target actually falls over. And it cannot be restored, or you cannot discover. That's also the same as in target, by the way. Whoever in a target event had that happen? I did. It was a boink on the floor. And then somebody pulled it up and all their faces were still there, and half of the arrow was there, and the other half was in there. Well, you can shoot that one again. The faces and the targets are slightly different as well. It's a field, face, with the X ring being 6 points, 5, and of course everything outside is 0. Typical 3D animal. And I don't know this by heart, so I have to look here. 11, 10, 8, 5, nothing. And horns, well, this is a teeth, but if in case you have horns, it's a miss. On a 3D course, you will find, on a field course, you will find one waiting post. That's where you wait for the target to become free. On a 3D course, you will find a waiting post, and then you will find another one with a picture, which clearly outlines what is the animal and what is the animal is not the animal. What are the hoofs, horns being 0. That's coming back from hunt. Because if you hit an animal in the horn, he'll run away. Sometimes a foam animal is, there will be a stand, a piece of rock or a log of wood or anything, and that's also miss. But again, the picture will show clearly outlined which is the scoring area and what is not. On a championship event at very least. The smaller targets in field, 20 centimeters, 40 centimeters, are set like this. You have to remind archer, if you're assigned to a field target, also to 3D, but of course you're assigned archer A, B, C, D. Archer A and B, A on the left, my left, your right, my right, your left. Archer B on the right, C on the left, D on the right. Next target, archer C will be on the left, start shooting, D on the right, and then A, and then B. And then every target you rotate. So if you come to a target, and you're the first pair to shoot, that could be either AB or CD, depending on which target you are. Left archer, first pair. Right archer, first pair. Second archer, second pair, left archer. Second pair, right archer. Again, that's not AB or CD, that's depending on which target you are. First pair shoots the top, second pair shoots the bottom. These are more complicated. First pair, first and third column. Left archer, right archer. First pair. And again, that's not A, B or C, D, that's depending on which target you are. First pair. Second pair, left archer, right archer. And then of course you shoot the column. It doesn't matter in which order. I will usually start here, just in case I forget to change my sight from the 60 meters before. But often you'll shoot either that way, it doesn't matter. Marusha is mentioning that because you have the even and the odd numbers. If you start on target number 2, then AB will start shooting at 2, 4, 6, 8, because you rotate after every target. So you can easily see whether there's something wrong there. The archers will know that, especially on championship level events, they will correct each other. Don't worry. A championship level event on field, start with 24 targets unmarked, then next day 24 targets marked. Then we'll go to this later, but this is still the rule at the moment. Pull shoot up. I already can mention that in Berlin there is a motion that says get rid of this and just get a bracket there. But this is still the rule at the moment. And you have a team round, you have mixed team round now, and you have finals. 3D, main difference in 3D, you have 24 targets unmarked, next day you have 24 targets unmarked. And all this in field is marked, all this in 3D is unmarked. And also here goes the same, there's a motion in Berlin. Just to give you an impression of the finals, nice little beach in Porridge. People playing beach volleyball. But you can also make it the field finals. 4 targets on a field finals course. Preparing yourself as a judge. Main preparation is the same as for target events. You read the rules, you can watch videos. There are videos, especially for field finals, there are videos on YouTube. You pack for travel, sure you have your visa. Last year COVID was still an issue, but what was that again? But there's also some things you need to remember to bring to a field course as a judge as well. Remember, you're in the course the entire day. Yes, sir.
We understand about hot, cold, very wet.
Lightning is something you hope never happens. It's if necessary, your COJ should inform you about the procedure, what happens in case of lightning. If thunderstorms are getting near, you're getting called off the course. Safety is also there, is paramount. And it very much depends on where you are, which country. I mean, the USA is really strict in lightning protocol, we discovered in the World Games. While other countries have something like, yeah, there's a thunderstorm nearby. But it's 4 miles away, so. US knows in 4 miles away from a thunderstorm you can get hit. Yeah, or even worse. Italy knows 4 miles from a thunderstorm, that's 3 mountains away. Lightning does not get around those. The locals will know. But lightning protocol is it's the same for target. The first time I actually had to deal with lightning protocol was in the World Games last year, because there was a lightning protocol set by the games organization, saying if lightning strikes within 4 or 5 miles, we stop. So that was a dictate. Even in 5 miles, we would say, especially we're on the bottom of a hill, lightning will strike on the top. But the games organizations say, this is the rule. So we actually in the World Games is a combination of target round for compound, field round for recurve and barebow, and we had to invoke lightning protocol twice in the target event during elimination. After 2 ends of elimination has been shot, they had to withdraw to the buses for 1 hour. It was about 43 degrees Celsius outside. Inside the bus was 20, air conditioned. So we also broke protocol and said, well, we're halfway elimination round, you still can have 2 warm-up ends now. That was a collective decision of me as chair of judges, the technical delegate, and in consultation with Tom Dillon. And everybody agreed, yes. That warm up will on a field course you will never have the warm up on the field course. Warm up is on the practice field. To come back here, you're in the course for the entire day. Bring food. Bring your own food. If you're lucky, the organizer will give you lunch. They should give you lunch. But probably it's packed lunch package and nothing else. So bring something yourself because it's easier to keep on eating the entire day. Then again, your sandwich probably will be handed to you in the morning as well. There should be water in the course. On a championship level event, you will find bottles of water every few targets. You can also use them as a judge. If you want something else as water, well, you have to bring it yourself. What I often do in a field event is I bring a bottle of lemonade syrup. So and small bottles, and just because after a few days water gets, especially because it is obligatory to provide water to the participants and also to the judges, but nothing is said about keeping it cool. So if you're lucky, they do. If you're not lucky, you're drinking not so cold water. It can be hot, it can be cold, it can be very wet. So bring your rain gear, or all three of them actually, not hot and cold at the same time, but at the same day, yes. It can actually be freezing. It can be snowing. It can be thunder and lightning. Hopefully not, but you can have snow. But you are still, well, not wearing this uniform, but the red one I wore yesterday. And this is the uniform you will wear at a World Archery Championship event. In World Archery Europe, you have another, and World Archery Asia as well. But World Archery really wants you to wear not this one, the red one, including the correct pants. And there is a jacket provided, there's a rain jacket provided, and you will wear that. Anything to keep you warm should be underneath. Of course, if you wear, there's long sleeves as well. But if you wear a pullover underneath your jacket, that's fine as long as we don't see it. As long as Tomaat doesn't see it, or the camera. And you might want to wear a hat or gloves or a scarf. The hand warmers, yes, to keep you warm. Umbrellas. If you're out in the course for the entire day in qualification, bring your umbrella. No problem. Only in finals for television. You just wear your cap. In case of hot weather, usually it's also sunny weather. Make sure you're protected against the sun. Sunglasses, sunscreen. Mosquitoes is my next one. Mosquito repellent, because you're in the forest, usually. And shoes. What do you think happens if you go onto a field course? Yeah, well, where do you'll get dirty everywhere, because you'll slide down the hill. Bring boots. Sturdy hiking boots. If you really expect mud, you can also put pins underneath. And be sure the event is not the first time you wear them, because you get blisters. And you need to walk on them first for some time. These are quite expensive, but they last for years. My current pair of boots, I think, are 8 years old. And I'm using them for field events, not only as a judge. Something else to bring, because measuring tapes really don't, well, you can, if you really want to. Use these. These are nice, but they are not so good. Even the expensive ones. These are more expensive, by the way. Problem with these is, besides that, usually they give you the distance on a meter, and with a tolerance of 25 centimeters on the short distance, that's just not good enough. It will also always give you a reading. It might not be the correct reading, because if you're shooting into the sun or into the darkness, it might give you a different reading, and that can be meters off, tens of meters off. it will give you a reading anyway, and it might be completely wrong. This one, provided you have one that actually measures up to, say, 100 meters, not the cheaper ones, will give you either the correct reading on the millimeter, which is a bit overdone, or it will just say error. If it cannot measure, it will say error. And you have to figure something out. Usually put a reflector plate on the target, then it will measure it anyway. Yeah, or this is a Leica, yeah. Leica actually sells reflector plates. Mind you, these are expensive. This is expensive equipment. That one is not cheap. This one is really expensive. We're talking about $400 or more. Don't buy one just for your event. There are usually on World Championship event there are judges who have them. I have one which is it's like 12 years old or something like that. They last some time. Also bring spare batteries, by the way, because they always fail at the wrong moment. And how do you operate them over 25 meters? Because there is a laser dot coming out. But after 20 meters you don't see the laser dot anymore. They come in two variants. That's why they're also the more expensive one. Either this screen will have a camera, so you can see where you're aiming at, because there will be a camera screen here. Or there is a viewfinder on the side, and you can look through them and find the target. And yes, this takes some experience, practice. You as a judge need to check the field. Of course you check for safety, I'll come to that later. You also need to check the distance.
During the competition?
No, in the field inspection.
Basically it's not this for use during inspection, setting up the field inspection, but not during...
As a judge, you can have that. If you find an athlete having something like this, you have other problem. Athletes are not supposed to have those. Venue inspection, usually it's on the day before the official practice. So you have 1 day of venue control, then you have the day of official practice, and then you start. There's time for the organizers to fix anything. What I do is I split the group of judges. World Archery level event, you have 12 judges. The deputy is one of them. So that's 4 judges on every course, usually 3 courses. And I like to keep them on that course because they get to know the course. They know the walkways, they know the safe paths, everything. And then for your reminder, what's most important? And safety. And then there's more to check. But first, safety. The difference between that one, shooting uphill, and this one, shooting uphill, that one has a problem. This one, except that it's probably not a World Championship event because there's some strange combination of target faces here, but local Austria, I think. That one actually is more safe than it looks because the hill behind is quite long, but still you're shooting upwards. If you miss that target, where does that arrow go? And arrows can travel far. Compound arrows shooting like that. Any guess? How far?
We had something like about more than 150 meters.
More than 150 meters? Well, way more than 150 meters. 600. Yeah, that's more like it.
Somewhere between flight and close.
12?
Somewhere between flight and close.
Yeah.
Selected.
Yeah, it's not as far. Flight archery is, I think the world record in flight archery is like 2 kilometers. It's not that bad because flight archery is actually not a normal compound bow. But yeah, 600 meters if you're shooting that way with a compound, 60 pounds. Yeah, it's possible. I would, under extreme distances, I would go for 800 meters. But this, if you miss the target, you break the arrow. Again, this is a World Championship event. You should not miss the target. In Yankton, we also had targets downhill on the edge of the lake. If you miss the target, you lost the arrow. This one, of course, is not really athlete friendly, but hey, it's a safe one. So, on national level events, it's not bad to put something behind, because. But on World Championship, no. And don't be afraid that the arrow will come back. This is soft rock, so yeah, it will drop. In a World Championship event, you will not have this. On a national or local event, you can, but then you'll probably see that a red pack will always be AB and blue pack will be CD. And on a championship level event, usually you only have either the blue or the red, and not both on a course. Some examples. Credit goes to David Catalan. It gives it away, right? Swear! This is a classic sky shot. The 600 meters or more is like this. So be very mindful. It is possible to do this if you know that for the next kilometer or something there is nothing there. And you need to be sure about that. Google Maps, by the way, Google Earth, is a great tool for that. There have been World Championship with targets, well, not straight up, because the arrow might come back, but yeah, there. Or
The point is when the targets are really on the
no,
you have sorry.
I hope it's in somewhere. By the way, I hope it's somewhere in there. But yes, a target needs to be perpendicular to the. So this perpendicular. It needs to be facing you. Both like this and also like this. Well, we've seen that example. This is also a problem, because there's something here. There was a shot in Mokric, something similar like this, and if you miss the target, your arrow. I think so. We are having the tournament in Slovenia, and if you missed the target, your arrow would be in Croatia. It was that close to the border. So how do you solve? This, providing this goes on, by the way. This is fine. You're shooting down. If you miss the target, your arrow will be in the ground behind the target. So shooting down is way more easy to make safe than shooting up. And usually targets will be on the ground anyway. Even the flat ones, the target will be on the ground. And that's basically shooting down. If you miss the target, the arrow will be behind in the ground or in the forest. But there's more things to consider on safety. You need to be able to walk through the course. Not only you as a judge or the athletes, but also if there's an emergency, people need to get into the course. And you need to know how and how to do it safely. Maybe you need to stop shooting, possible, but there should be some path. And also public footpath or public bike paths in your forest. It would not be the first time that you encounter some mountain bikers who will be there every Sunday. So also on this Sunday. And yes, of course there were fences, but you can put them away. I want to bike. Yeah, of course you put signs there, you should put guards there, but still be mindful that you suddenly might have pop up some people in your course. And also, if you know that there's a public footpath there, well, maybe you should not put a target there, just in case. The walkway of the athletes, of course, I'll have an example later on. The waiting area, it would not be the first time that the waiting area of target number 20 is in the safety zone or the unsafe zone of target 19. If you miss the target, you hit the waiting post for target 20. Look for that. Also in field, and even more, probably more important in field, the unsafe draws. Not only the high draws, the side draws, but what happens if your target is down there and you're doing like this? That's not allowed. You should draw at the target, down and draw. No, you cannot do this. Your catering area is over there. If you go off the release here, you will kill somebody. Probably your coach, but still. Always aim and draw at the target. The question is about media. On a field event, there's two kinds of media people. I would say photographers, but nowadays there's also video. You have those appointed by World Archery, Dean. There's a few more. I've been one a long time ago. They know what they're doing. They know where to go, and if they happen to be a disturbance to the athletes, which I've never met, because Dean knows exactly what he can and cannot do. You can always talk with them. And everybody wants to have a photo, and everybody knows Dean. And then there's the local media, who doesn't know anything about archery, let alone field or 3D archery. They need to have a guide from the local organizing committee who can tell them exactly where to and not to go, especially on unmarked, because what happens sometime is that a coach will double accredit as a coach and a photographer. Coaches cannot enter the course, photographers can. Make sure he's not on the course with his children. You know what I'm talking about. There can be distractions to the athletes. Distractions to the athletes are what I would say view safety. There is the safety zone, also in field. It's 6 degrees from your shooting position to the target, which is not that much. It's only a few meters at 60. But if you have people walking by at 10 meters, the archers will not like you, because it might be safe according to the book, but there's disturbance for them, and they don't like that. It's also something to watch for. Also make sure they don't get lost, because you can make all the safe paths you like. If they lose the path and suddenly are in front of another target, you don't want that. This is and use plenty. And sometimes you need to go back and forth to the target to collect your arrows, come back, take your bow and go to the next. Yeah, leave your bow here or go this way to collect your arrows. And there might be multiple courses, and it's very nice to have a nice overshoot on the red course, landing your arrow in the middle of the yellow course. So especially when you're the chair of judges, make sure that the safety between the courses are also arranged, because you will put your judges on one course and they don't necessarily know about the other one. So make sure you cross-check. And there's more to check. Of course, you check all the distances. Not only whether they're correct for marked courses, or for unmarked, they need to be within the correct separation, but also whether they are all there. As I showed a few slides back, you need to have this many. The unmarked, you have this many 20 centimeter, this many 40 centimeter, this many 60, this many 80, with some variation. But you cannot have a course with 12, well, not a course with 24 80 centimeter targets. So make the check twice, not only whether they are all there, whether they are all correct, but also whether they are all there. Check the placement of targets. What's the left column Don't do this. This is fine. This is the left column. The same goes for the foreface. If you put it like a diamond, this is not. Don't do this. This is fine.
So the right one is acceptable.
This is fine. Yes, as long you can put them on any angle, as long as they are straight to the archer. You can put them on any angle, as long as you can recognize which column you have to shoot on. So this is not allowed. Imagine this be on the side of a hill. The archer might be standing the same, by the way. Which brings me to, you also check for equal, more or less, footing. The shooting position, left and right of the peg. By the way, you're shooting behind the peg. If there's a shooting peg, high scholar, it's here. You should be standing 1 meter. If you're the left archer, right archer for me left archer, you should be 1 meter beside or behind, somewhat like a D. You should be there, not in front, not even 1 foot in front, although you'll see somebody. But you should be behind and beside the target, the peg. Not in front, not with 2 foot over it, and not the IFAA rule that says you have to touch the peg. That's IFAA, that's not World Archery. And for finals you often see 2 pegs, by the way. There's one for left, one for right. And it doesn't mean that you have to be able to shoot from everywhere 1 meter to the side. There needs to be a position that you can shoot. And you don't need to bring some pavement or concrete to the forest. Equal footing can be equally bad. But as long as it's equally bad for both of them, more or less equal. So if one is standing flat and the other one is standing like this, that's not equal footing. You check also there's the waiting post, or both waiting posts for 3D. It should be there, it should be safe. And you should be able to see, from the waiting post, you should be able to see the shooting peg, or for 3D, from the first waiting post, you should be able to the second waiting post. For the second waiting post, you should be able to see the shooting peg, whether the archers are shooting there or not. And of course, from the shooting peg, you should be able to see the target. Clearing, I'll get to that, but that's basically make sure that the arrow can fly and hit the target. You're in the forest. Forests tend to have trees. Trees tend to have branches. So the arrow needs to be able to fly and hit the target, whether you're compound, flying straight, whether you're a junior barebow. Shooting, it's not as bad as it looks, by the way. They're in front of this tree. Target, and make sure that they don't hit those, and they don't hit these. And that's, unfortunately for you, comes with experience. It helps if you shoot field, by the way, because then you know arrow trajectory. But if you're on a target event, on the recurve side, they're shooting 70 meters. They won't be shooting 70 meters, but 60 at most in field. Just have a look at how the arrows are flying. If you're on a junior tournament with the lower poundage, just have a look how the arrows are flying on the recurve side only. You can stand in the middle. Don't do that don't do that at all, by the way. But you could stand in the middle of a recurve field, provided you're not having Brady shooting, because that's flying quite straight. And the arrows will pass over you easily. I would quote Morten Wilman. He would say, cut everything up until you think it's safe, it's clear, and then 1 meter more. I will quote Hannah, and she said, bollocks. Just cut what you need to cut. Longbow on 3D have heavy wooden arrows. Luckily they don't shoot that far, but the drop, the trajectory of those arrows and the drop in the end is quite steep. So even if you think the arrow is the target is underneath a bush and the bush is way high, well, the longbow will hit it. And also consider the weather. If you make your course inspection during nice sunny weather, and then the day after it starts to rain, the branches come down. What do you need? Well, this is my logo. This is my club round. Measuring devices, maps. You need maps. Because from a map, and you get the map first, and from the map you can see that target 22 and 23 are shooting towards each other. Oh, is that safe?
Depends on what's between.
Of course you don't see the hill on the map.
Road, right?
No, this is a highway. Highway, there's a railroad here.
How about the target number 4 then?
4. No, this is a bike path.
Oh,
And it's a public bike path, but this is the forest. This is closed. The bike path is outside of the forest. We are by our local government. We are not allowed to shoot to the outside. We are only allowed to shoot parallel or to the inside, not to the outside. Well, as you can see, most of the times they are shooting in, except for some things. Yeah, this is more or less parallel, and there is a hill here. For your reference, this is the Netherlands. The Netherlands is quite flat. There's about 6 meters of height difference in this park, and we use it about 20 times.
Common sense.
Yeah, that's something you really need to bring. And first you look at the map. You can see on the map which might be problems, and then you go on the course and you see there is no problem, or there is. And then you have to fix. And then you can also, things you cannot see on a map, and you go on the course and say, hey, not good. And bring checklists. Every experienced field judge will have checklists, both way, by target and by what should be there, so you can fill in the target number corresponding. I don't think they're in the judge guidebook. No, we should put them there. Oh, and by the way, if you think venue inspection is one day, it's every day. Because after unmarked, you need to reset for marked. And then they build another course for elimination, and they build another course for finals. So at the end of every day, after you think you're done, you're not. If you're lucky, you get a map like this with actually the footpath in there. And then you should be able to see on the map where it was. There it was. That you're shooting target 20, and then you're walking behind the target. You don't want that. Especially because in practice you didn't walk straight behind the target, they actually did this. So they walked away and then crossed back behind the target. So the archers, after the next group, was like, they're gone, we can start shooting, and hey, there's somebody walking behind my target. This is really something you should look for. Sometimes it's not possible. This is, over here it was, in real life it wasn't a problem. This actually was a problem. And we discovered it only 2 weeks later at the next event, because we have a field round, and 2 weeks after we have a 3D event on the same course. Slightly different, but still. And we discovered it only two weeks later. And that course was checked by judges. So we made a mistake, judges made a mistake. And we learned. That's why I showed. So much for venue inspection. The question here is, can we use the same course for unmarked and then for marked and then for elimination? On a national or club level event, yes. On a championship level event, no. That's why you rotate. because yes, you use the same course, but for a different, not category,
Different people on it.
yeah, different bow type. Yes, the mark distances are usually longer. And longer means you need more space back, and you also need more space up. Because, well, every arrow, even a bare bow, at 20-25 meter it will fly straight. At 60 meter, a compound will fly straight. Bare bow and recurve will, but on 30 meters it's straight anyway. Who knows the exact tolerance on any target over 15 meter?
1 meter.
Yeah, and under? 25 centimeters. That goes for both the marked and the unmarked. So yes, an unmarked 60 could actually be at 61. No, it cannot, because an unmarked 60 is not there. Unmarked 55 could be at 56. The intention on 70 something, 75. The tolerance is there in the book, not to be used consequently. It is not the intention of the rule to have the 60 meter marked at 61. It's for being able to cope with the terrain. If your peg happens to be in the middle of a rock, well, maybe you need to move it slightly. That's fine. Your measuring device has some inconsistencies. That's for that. It's not the intention of the rule to have every target long or short to fool the archers, because the archers won't like it, and it's not the intention of the rule. There is another thing. You can be off by 2 meters on the mark distance, but you have to put it on the peg, the exact distance, or on the meter. So if you put, if it's necessary to put the 62, because there's a cliff or something, it's allowed, but you have to put it on the peg. And in my club round, we once put a 10 meter bunny at 9 meters 67, and we put it on the peg. Don't do that on a championship level event. By the way, the archers were like, what? And of course, it's just 10 meters. Now we're going to equipment inspection, and I'm going to skip the recurve, the compound, and the bare bow, because I showed them yesterday. There is a slight thing on all three of them. That's about ranging, and I think I have ranging later on. Yes. But for 3D, we have 2 additional. For championship round 3D, we have 2 additional. We have the traditional bow, formerly known as instinctive bow, but it's a different bow. And we have longbow, and longbow is really a traditional bow, by the way, because that's basically the stick. First, traditional bow. Wooden bow, simple. How do you call that? Rest, yes. No sight. And there are plenty of interpretation on how much wood should be there. Basically, it should be wood, and there can be plastic attached to it. If you go to a 3D, if I go to 3D, read those rules and those interpretations, and talk with your more experienced. Basic rule, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the bow should be wood. And if there's any resin, plastic, whatever attached to it, that's fine, as long as the structural bow is wood. Either fully wood or being a takedown type. Then the riser should be structurally wood. So not structurally anything else. Made of wood, or wood inside, visibly. And there is, yeah, read the interpretations. all 3 of them. The interpretation on the interpretation on the interpretation. Simple arrow rest. You are allowed to have string silencers. No, not here. Those are the fluffy things. And you have a fixed anchor point.
3 millimeters around the knot.
Either
Over or under.
or under.
Finger splitter or attached.
That one is not longer there for traditional. A longbow is basically a wooden stick with a string. There is no rest except your hand. Maybe there's a shelf. Oh, there's no shelf. This is a British longbow. That's a proper longbow. The definition on World Archery longbow includes the American longbow, which is a flat bow. But it's allowed because it's in the rules. Main thing, it doesn't have a recurve. It's if you put a piece of rope from here to the other side alongside the back, then it's always touching because it's a D shape. It's not a recurve. So that one looks iffy, but that's probably the picture. Also check binoculars, because binoculars can be used for ranging to guesstimate, measure the distance on an unmarked course. So you should not have any markings on there that can be used. And sometimes that's quite difficult, and often you have to cover with tape or anything the markings that the manufacturer will put there anyway. But also look at equipment inspection, have a look at the binoculars, look through them and see whether there are scales in there. Because especially military type binoculars will have scales in there. Because, well, actually the military would like to know how far it's away. And of course, no electronics and no rangefinders, etc. Ranging. Every field archer will range at championship level events. And it's part of the game. It's a skill. The better you are in ranging, the more points you will shoot. But there are some limits and some rules to it. Basically, you'll see people do stuff like this. This is allowed. You use your finger. It's a set distance from your eye to your finger. You know the width of this. You can see how far it is. You have a target. You're here, and there are ways. I know 10 meters is there. Well, further. And how many times the 10 meters are there, so I know how far it is. This is something often done with traditional bow or bare bow. Perfectly allowed. It's actually an interpretation that says this is allowed. This is something you'll see on a recurve. This is the way I do it. I didn't bring my sight.
The pressure button.
Yeah, that's also on bare bow because you have a pressure button there. This is 1 centimeter. It's 1 meter away from my eye. Say this is an 80 centimeter face. From the middle of an 80 centimeter face to the edge is how many centimeters? 40 centimeters. It's 1 centimeter, 1 meter. 40 centimeters will mean 40 meters. And my sight happens to be at 1 meter. Just purely by coincidence, of course. And that's allowed, as long as you don't have the notes. You need to do it here. You will see people ranging like that, and every sighted archer will do it like that, or some way. The compound archer will usually use the bubble or the dot or anything. It is not forbidden to raise your bow with an arrow, because hey, at least you have to pretend you're shooting. Look, come back, change your sight. There used to be a rule long time ago before I got even before I became an archer probably, that said that if once you draw your bow, you have to shoot. How many safety edges do you have there? Because you know you're going to miss the target. Where do I aim now? So that rule is gone. And you'll see every recurve and compound archer coming down, change.
Mark's first shot is never hit.
And then you have the likes of people like Dave Cousins, who are able to range within half a meter with their compound scope. There are some restrictions. You are allowed, no, you're not allowed to have any rangefinders or any other means of estimating distances or angles on your bow. But hey, a sight can be on your bow as long as you're compound or recurve. You cannot have notes with you that says, hey, if I see this, this is the distance. And yes, check for that at equipment inspection. Can I see your notes, please? Can I see your sight tape or whatever? Sighted divisions only are allowed to have a single set of sight marks. And of course, if the backup copy is exactly the same, that's fine, because hey, sometimes you lose. But you can only have one set of sight marks, not multiple. Yeah, you'll have two kind of sighted archers. Either they have the distances on their sidebar, so they know where to put it, or they have a piece of paper that says, hey, 5 meters or 10 meters is sight is here, and usually by 5 meters, because in between you have to put it somewhere in between. But for unsighted divisions, bare bow, traditional longbow, they cannot have sight marks. They don't have a sight, so they cannot have sight marks. And they cannot make notes either. The only thing they can carry is a copy of the World Archery Rulebook or any part thereof. This is a copy of the World Archery Rulebook, because it basically says this is the target, this is the distance. That's in the rulebook.
That's it.
And sometimes you will see a card like this and then also the sight marks. Fine. For sighted divisions, of course. To me, the World Archery Rulebook is in English. So if you happen to see any, sorry for the people from China, Chinese notes, I don't know what's in there. So a copy of the rulebook is in English. For championship events, I mean, if you have a national Chinese event and you have Chinese rules. Yeah. If you have equipment inspection, you can ask the people, can you show me your sites, your memos, anything. Yeah, they know and they will show you. And you cannot make changes to your equipment with the sole purpose of ranging. Very nice rule, impossible to check, because the archer will always say that's for aiming and not for ranging. Yeah, it's. I mean, I like to paint my nails in yellow and red and blue. It's a nice target face, right? Of course, you cannot write on the nail.
Look, it's like a tattoo. Permanent tattoo.
Yes, that's possible, but it's very. It would be. The question here, you can use a tattoo on the nail.
Not on the nail, but like
on the side.
I put WA. You know, I love archery. I put WA.
Yeah.
On the side of my thumb.
Use a bandage to cover it.
No, I mean, I would really recommend against putting a tattoo and using it for ranging, because your range might actually change, and a tattoo is usually difficult to change. So the painting is easier, but it's technically allowed. As soon as they put numbers here and a ruler, then maybe you should have them cover it. There are easier way to range. Yeah. Marussia makes a valuable addition. Sighted divisions, you shoot a red peg, minimum distance on the red peg is 10 meters, both unmarked and marked. The interesting part is, if you are shooting 10 meters, then your sight will be at 5 or 2. So a sighted division will also have a sight mark for 5 or even less meters. And that's fine. The sight, it can be longer, it can be shorter. Sight marks are sight marks, it's not restricted to 10 meters. Because, again, additional difficulty of field archery, you're shooting in an angle. If you're shooting straight at 60 meters or 50, that's fine, then your sight mark is 50. If you're shooting up at 50, you're usually are at 45 or even less. And the same goes for down. There is, from my own, it depends on your poundage and everything. It's something you need to learn. In my own experience, it's always shorter, except for slightly uphill shots. Then it can be a little bit longer. It's actually, also as a judge, and I know in Asia there's very little field rounds, but I would really recommend, if your country organizes a field shoot and you practice archery, try it. There is nothing about the compound multi-spot, multi-pin scope. In target, that is perfectly legal. In marked field rounds, that's legal if you really want to. An unmarked field, it's not. Only one. That's the additional restriction on compound for unmarked field and 3D, by the way. Because if you have multiple pins, you can easily range. No, multi-pin means you have multiple side pins within your scope. The peep elimination is the peep elimination device is actually it's a piece of pipe pointing towards you in 2 circles. So it's a way of fine leveling. Yeah, if that's what you mean by sighting, it's the same. Ranging is the way is I think the correct word for guesstimating the distance. Range finding without using a rangefinder, or any. I mean, it's not allowed to bring a measuring tape or a rangefinder as an archer. There are those hook type devices to check your string height on a recurve. That's technically a measuring device, but don't bother. They're not going to use that. That's for and yes, the top level archers will have that with them. It's a measuring device. Don't bother. It's really just for checking the string. There is one other thing on equipment inspection that I don't have in my notes. This is easy. No. That would be easy, at least now. I'm not saying anything about after Berlin. You'll know. But on championship level events, it will not change. This is an electronic storage device. It's not allowed. It's also an electronic communication device. It's not allowed. This is a real smartwatch. It's a communication device. It's a tracking device. No, not allowed.
Can a judge use it?
Oh yes, a judge can use anything. Just don't tell the archers. A judge is allowed to carry a rangefinder in his back as well, you know? Question here is shading. Can I borrow a piece of paper? About shading. Shading is not allowed in the finals. Shading is a practice you will see on qualification rounds, archers for each other. Field rounds are targets can be in any direction, straight into the sun. Deal with it. It's field. Archers are allowed A4 paper maximum, and usually they will do it between themselves, and especially on compound, to make sure the sun is out of the scope, or out of the eye, or both. Sometimes they use half, one for the and one for the other one. That's shading. On finals with television, we don't want that because television doesn't like it. Except when you're shooting straight into the sun and you have a safety issue. That's why it says, unless authorized by chairman of judges. And yes, I have authorized it sometimes. And then you allow, usually in finals you will provide the shade, not a piece of paper like this, but it's about this side and stiff. And then you have to separate the arches a little bit more because the coach needs to be in between to be able to, well, to shade, basically. No, it's, the coach will have it in their hand, and the coach will be standing right next to the archer. Yes, fine. Qualification rounds, that's the easy part for judges, because hey, you're in the course and you have nothing to do.
That's where we have done this.
In the morning, you're in the course before the athletes and after the field crew, because overnight the faces will not be there, because they tend to get wet, shrink, etc. So in the morning, field crew will put the faces on. Next job you have is make sure the correct faces are there. And it will be the first time that it's not correct. So in the morning you walk the entire course. That's the first walk.
Yeah.
During the day you will walk the course a couple of times again, just to check everything is in order. Any face changes needed? Yes, face changes are probably needed on a championship level event.
Or if it's pass-throughs that they
Pass-throughs, etc. Athletes you'll be happily sitting on your chair. You have to bring your own chair, by the way. Usually that's the backpack kind of chair types. And usually that's because arrow is stuck in the target, arrow passed through the target, and the face is really gone, or sometimes the entire target is gone. But arrow calls, that's not your problem. The athletes will do the arrow calls themselves, qualification round. If you witness a group of archers standing the four of them between each other doing this.
I like this decision. I don't like this decision.
Yes, this is up, down, majority cuts.
And
they will do that themselves. If they call you for an arrow call, explain. Figure it out between the group. This is one of the ways to do it. It's the easier way because then
you cannot discuss with the piece.
Yeah. Do watch for unsafe shooting techniques. Like I said before, you don't want the arrow in the catering area. Unrelated equipment failure. Oh, actually I'll go to training now. The qualification rounds are untimed, basically. But if you have a queue of groups waiting, please do go ahead. 3 minutes shooting time from the bag until the last arrow shot for field, 2 minutes for 3. And if they go over, usually if there's a queue, there's probably a reason. First time you give a warning, it's called a verbal warning, you write it down on the score. Because otherwise the next shift doesn't know you gave a verbal warning. Second warning is called a written warning, you write it down on the scoreboard. The third and every warning after that will cause the highest scoring arrow. This really, really rarely happens. Those warnings do not carry over from one stage of competition to the next. So you have received a warning in the qualification round, in the elimination round, it's gone. Qualification round is 2 days. So the warnings from the first day do carry over to the second day.
That's why
very,
you
very
have
nice
a-
job of the chairman of judges to go over all the scorecards and transfer them to the next. Yeah, you take the scorecard, you write down first warning, target such and such, and your initial. And you can, oh, by the way, put the warning on both of the scorecards. Because otherwise next time they will give you the other one. No, usually the judge position is fixed in the course. You will usually have 8 targets to watch for, and you stay at those 8 targets. It depends on the layout of the course, if you have 6 or 8 or 10 targets, or maybe you just walk around, but you do not stay with the group. The group will pass by. The keyword, before I go to Inronil, the keyword here is undue delay. If the archers take 10 minutes to shoot, but there's nobody waiting for them, there is no undue delay, and there's no reason to time. Don't worry, the archers will actually tell you, Judge, can you have a look at the group in front of us, because they're so heavily slow. Or even, Judge, can you have a look at Archer A, because he's slowing us down as a group. And they will talk to you in private, don't worry, because they don't like to sniff out.
And there's one thing.
It's good practice for all the judges to have the list of all the groups in their course, either on paper or nowadays electronically.
If someone is not
Equipment failure is actually the last one for coffee, and then after coffee we'll go to elimination round. Equipment failure in field is field qualification round is yes, still possible. 30-minute maximum. Why? Because you have to get equipment into the course. And the course, well, it can be some walk. Should be within 15 minutes, but should be. The 30 minutes starts the moment the chair is informed. And the chair will keep track of the time. So don't call the chair and says, hey, it was 35 minutes. The chair will say, hey, that's my call, not yours. If equipment failure happens, your group will finish shooting the target. You, of course, may have arrows left because, hey, you had equipment failure. After that, you score the arrows that have been shot. And then you wait as a group. They will call a judge. That's the judge, target 5. That kind of calls. And the group will wait at the waiting post of that target. And then the next group shows up and they can go on. And that's the only way in championship round that the order of groups can be changed. Call might be because maybe the archer is able to solve it. Maybe he has spare equipment with him. But it also is quite possible that the call is made to usually the chair of judges by radio or phone to get the coach, to get spare equipment, and to carry it into the field. COJ will try to find the team manager. It's a good practice in the team managers meeting to ask the teams who not have a coach or a team manager to ask some other team manager to represent them, because it's not like they're coming back. You are going to them. By radio, try to establish, usually it's give the radio to the archer and the coach and have them talk to each other in English. What they need spare bow, spare sight, spare stabilizers, or whatever. And then bring the team manager or have someone bring the team manager to the assigned target. Usually field crew knows the safe paths. You should know, as the chair of judges should know the safe paths. So you can bring it to the course. Judge from that course can pick him up, bring him to the archer affected, have the fix changed, whatever they need for the bow, and then escort them back out. The timing of the equipment failure starts as soon as the chair of judges is informed, especially when it's necessary to bring equipment. You will see people. Yeah, I know. You will see people bringing a spare set of limbs in their backpack. That's allowed. When the time is expired, and that's a call of the chair of judges, in the end, usually in cooperation with the judge on site, the group will continue, and the athlete has to stay with the group, even if he cannot shoot. He can continue fixing whatever he wants. Every unshot arrow is a miss. But if you leave the group, you're out of the event. But the archer cannot go to the central area and fix for the next day.
Or remain.
The archer has to stay with the group, or he is out of the tournament.
And move on to other targets.
Yes, he has to stay with the group. Anything else before coffee?
Medical?
Medical is the same as equipment. But then you don't bring the team manager, you usually bring a medic.
So in the event whereby an archer fell, broke the leg, so
Yeah, well, usually they, if you fall and break a leg, then you're usually airlifted out of the event, and yes, you're out of the event, but you're not walking on your. Yeah. If your bow breaks down on the first day of qualification and you cannot repair it, even during the night, and on a field championship, usually there will be a spare bow from somebody else. But still, in case that's not happening, you still have shot. You still might be able to progress to the elimination round. Then you need another bow, by the way. So you have another. But then, in that case, on the second day, you have to stay with your group, even if you're not shooting. We are talking field archery here. There is still. And it's been some years ago that it happened in Göteborg, Sweden. That's 15 or more years ago. There's a Dutch, former top-level field archer. He's retired. That still says, "My bow is world champion." I'm not. My bow is world champion, because there was no the airlines. There was no bow for a certain archer, and every archer on that level has a second bow. So they gathered everything, equipment, and he borrowed his bow to the guy who later on managed to win the tournament with his bow. That's field archery. The people will help each other. This is for qualification, because now we go to elimination. And again, as a warning, this is the pool shoot-up system, if you write it into brackets. Basically, you put people in pools. The lowest one and the second lowest one will shoot against each other. Winner goes on, takes the next. Winner goes on, takes the next. And then you have pool winners, semi-finals, finals. The number 1 and number 2 of the qualification round immediately go to the semi-finals. That is still the rule at this time. Probably in 2 months it's no longer the rule. The question here is it in the exam? And I would say asking the question is answering it. Again, probably after Congress it will be the top 16 in a normal bracket. And now it's still this. A lot of other things will not change. Elimination rounds are on a separate course. 6 targets. All 4 phases are there. Yes, that means that some phases will be more often than once, if you can count. It's a match, 1 against 1. Well, not 1 against. It's 2 archers against each other, depending on the system. But let's skip that one for now. Matches are controlled by a judge. You are there. Arrow calls are made by a judge. If the 2 of them don't agree, they will call you. And you use your usual procedure with a magnifying glass. Laying on the ground in the mud, looking, you know it's true. The elimination rounds are also timed. 2 minutes for a team, 2 minutes for field individual, 1 minute for a 3D individual. So you take out your stopwatch and you time. You ask the archer, are you ready? You say go, press the stopwatch, they go to the peg, they shoot simultaneously. With 30 seconds to go, you show your yellow card. And after the time is expired, you will say stop. And they will stop shooting, hopefully. There is one thing not in the rule, but it's good practice. It is just the moment you raise the yellow card, ask before your first match to the athletes. Ask them, when I raise the yellow card, shall I also say 30 seconds? Usually they will say yes, please. Sometimes they will even ask, can you also count down from 10? Those things need to be agreed by both of the archers. If one of them says, no, don't say anything, you don't say anything, because it's not in the rules. The countdown from 10 I would not do. You can agree to say 10, but I would not count down. You're not the coach. But this is something you work out with your match, with your team, with the archers. This is the elimination round. There is no more time for equipment failure. I would say there's no more equipment failure, but that's not the case. Equipment can still fail, but there is no time. If they can bring 2 bows if they want, and they can walk from the pack, take the other bow and go back, they have 2 minutes. Or 1 for 3D. For field, the regular team, not the mixed team, that's the next slide. For field, it's 1 archer of all 3 bow types. Men team, women team, junior men, usually not junior women, because usually there's not enough junior women, but still it's possible. And for 3D, current rules, compound and longbow, and either a traditional or a bare bow. Again, in 2 months there is a congress. This might change. It might be teams of 4 after congress. We'll see. Yes, might be, because it's a vote. I don't know the result of the vote. These are all in laws, so that's why Congress will decide. Remember the difference between a law and a bylaw. Teams do not shoot at the same time. First, one team will shoot in their time, and then the other team will shoot in their time. Why? My experience again is in field, but 3D is the same, I think. Compound and recurve have a red pack. Barebow has a blue pack. Usually the blue pack is closer. You don't want to have the one team shooting from the blue pack and the other team shooting from the red pack. And it is up to them which order. They can start on the blue, they can start on the red, they can start red, blue, red. That's all fine. There is something here that I will talk about later. A team functions as a team. So the compound archer can go with the barebow archer to the blue pack. The coach can go to the blue pack. It's the team. It consists of 4 people, 3 archers, a coach. And they move together. And of course, if one elects to stay at the red pack while the other 2 are at the blue, that's fine. If the blue pack is shooting, or if the blue pack starts shooting, the archers on the red pack cannot have their arrows on the bow. This is safety. If 2 archers are waiting at the red pack and only one is shooting at a time, of course, both can have an arrow on there, as long as there's nobody on the blue. Both can have an arrow on the bow, but only one can raise the bow. It's not like they're shooting at the same time, they're shooting separately. But there is no 1 meter line, no yellow cards, except for the time. They can stand there. It's something you have to see, you have to experience. I have to say the rules on teams are getting more clear in the rule book every time, but still we run team rounds by experience. Barebow, blue pack, teammates are standing there. Perfectly fine. And there's also a judge, but Ignore him. And this, by the way, is actually a picture of a final, not of an elimination round, but still. It's the same. We now also have a mixed team. 2 archers from the same division. So same bow type. 4 arrows, 2 each for field, 2 arrows, 1 each for 3D. A crazy amount of seconds for field, but it's 40 seconds an arrow. Even crazier for 3D. And they alternate after every shot. That doesn't mean they have to, that actually does mean they have to step back from the pack. They have to step back from the pack, but there's no 1 meter line again. There's only 1 archer at the pack, but they have to get away from the pack, the next one steps in. And of course you can only load your arrow on the pack, safety. No yellow card waving, it's safety. This is a newish kind of event, because they're still tweaking it. I think we have seen it twice now. It's very dynamic, it looks very good. It's fun, really it is. And it is recommended to have enough space on both sides of the pack because of the alternation. Both teams now shoot at the same time because, hey, they're using the same pack. So you need enough space, left side and right side. Especially because they have to step in and step out. Not to mention shoot-offs. Finals. After elimination, all those rounds, or in the future probably, maybe the brackets. We go to finals. Finals are 4 targets. Every phase, this is a 40 centimeters, only 1 because it's only 1 archer. Or it's 2. Yeah, maybe it's 2. No, it's 1. 20, 40, 60, 80. And what's that? That's a shoot-off target. That's a special one. Ignore for now. It's 4. All kinds of faces once. 4 targets. Everything on field is marked, everything on 3D is unmarked. This is a final. I cannot see whether it's team or it looks the same for team and individual. Because individual is 3 arrows for 1 archer, team is 3 arrows for the team. In the finals you have target judges, line judges, just like target. If you see you have a blind, you really don't want to walk up there. This is a how do you call it? Ski jump. This is a ski jump. This is the landing zone. Steep. So the judge was there. And they have a radio and call them to the one who is actually carrying the scorecard. This is something that's different depending on the finals venue. That's something you have to work out as a chair with a TD, how to do this. Because it's different every event. Sometimes you have a judge for every target, sometimes a judge walks with the target, if it's more or less flat. In this case you had 1 judge for these 2 targets, target judge, and 1 here and 1 here. And then there's the line judge. It's easy, not so easy to call it a line judge without a line. But still it's the line judge. Do we have more judges on field in 3D to compare to targets? This is a championship, it's a world championship, that's 13 judges. Like any world championship. Timing by DOS on the finals. The clocks are there. Individual, both athletes, barebow, blue bag, with a marker there for the distance. They're shooting at the same time. 2 minutes, 3 arrows per target. And again, for a field round, you will have 4 targets with all 4 target faces there. And all the 4 target faces need to be at one of the marked distances in the book. It's no longer a requirement to have all the longs or all the or whatever. Pick one, as long as it's a valid distance. The finals for teams are pretty much the same as elimination, except for there's a DOS now. And because there is a DOS, you don't have to say go, stop, 30 seconds, whatever. You don't have to wave a yellow card, because the clock will show you the 30 seconds. And the red peg will shoot first, always, for TV reasons. And for safety reasons. But still only one team shooting. Because you don't want one team to be slow on the red peg while the other one is walking to the blue. And then we have the finals for team. Some of it is the same as elimination. Again, this is now timing by DOS. You alternate after every shot, and you alternate between the teams. So that's 1 arrow, 2 arrow for one team, 1 arrow, 2 arrow for the other team. And then the other arrow. Unless you have a shoot-off in finals, then you have 1 arrow of one team, 1 arrow of the other team, 1 arrow of the first team, 1 arrow of the other team. And a crazy amount of seconds for the shoot-off, by the way. And that's also up for change in Berlin, because somebody put the timing in the law and not in the bylaw. Most importantly for this championship event, even more than for the qualification round. Qualification round is something that can be done on a club or national level. This, except for Austria, is usually not done on a national level. So the qualification round is something you can organize on a club or a national level. Championships rounds are more difficult. They usually also take a week. Not everybody has that. But if you can, try to experience it. There's even more than on target. You need to experience field and 3D. The first time you'll be overwhelmed. What's this? But after a few times, and especially if you manage to participate on a club or national level, you'll get to appreciate it. It's really, it's fun. As a judge, it's long days, and it's a lot of fun. On a target event, you're always being taught not to talk to the archers. You're talking to the team manager. On a field course, you suddenly discover there is no team manager there. You have to talk with the archer. And actually, as long as you don't bother the archer while they're shooting, which you should not do, of course, and that's safety, they're actually nice people. Yeah. You can talk with them, and not all of them, but some of them actually enjoy talking with you. From a practical perspective, don't approach an archer and start talking to him. Just wait for them to come to you. They will. I had this nice exchange with Brady on the World Games in Poland a few years ago. We had a nice target with a 80 centimeter face, and it was set the way that it looked like a 60 centimeter face. So it looked a lot closer than it actually was. And I was a judge there. And they came back from the target, and they said, "Judge, do you search for arrows behind that target?" I said, "You missed it?" "Yes, we missed it." And I said, "Good, we won." So Brady said, "You enjoy that, right?" I said, "Yes, and you do too." And he agreed. And by the way, in championship level events, they nowadays also have 1 scorecard and 1 tablet. In Yankton, the judges were the hotspots. We carried the hotspot in our pocket, and every time an archer was close to it, the scores would be transmitted to Matteo. Okay, that leaves me to thank Anthony, Bettina, David, Hannah, and Helmut. Those are also international judges, and they France, Austria, Spain, UK. Hannah still is the chair of the Field and 3D committee for about 2 months left, because She has to go out now after governance rules. The same reason why Sergio is stepping down. Too many terms.